Well, hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial of ZeroSync. We're going to be going through how to upgrade your app to the latest changes, and that is the new release of 0.25. Now, this release is a breaking release, so your app will no longer work if you just simply hit npm install at latest. I'll show you how to update the syntax of your queries and mutators and get your app back up and running with this latest release, and show you some of the cool things that they've added now that are extremely helpful for development and just a better overall functionality for ZeroSync. So if you're not familiar with ZeroSync, I'd recommend checking out some other videos. This is strictly a video for upgrading your app from a previous release. So let's get started. If you remember from previous videos, I have a chess app built with ZeroSync, and today we're going to upgrade this and show you how to do it and how to do it fast, because we're not out here taking our time refactoring. We want to refactor and then keep building what we love building. So first thing you're going to do is come into here. You're going to stop your app, and then of course you're going to npm install the latest from ZeroSync. And from here, you're going to remove one thing quickly. I already did it, but it's the zero auth secret. You're no longer going to use that. They've refactored how they're doing permissions. Those no longer work like they used to. Now you're going to see immediately that some of my TS config is picking up, oh, something's not quite right anymore. And you'll see here, oh, property chess games doesn't exist. If we were to try to run the app again, it would not work, because like I said before, this is a breaking change, so there are some things that aren't going to work anymore. And the main things that aren't going to work anymore are the CRUD mutators. Those are no longer supported. You can't reference them at all. Those will not work. The next thing that is broken is the queries. So if you go into your app and you're trying to query something like in here, this is deprecated. You can't do it like this anymore. And the way it's defined now are in two central locations. Usually you'll have your schema.ts somewhere in the root. You're also now going to need a queries.ts file in the root. That's going to be for querying your data. And you're also going to need a mutators.ts in the root, or wherever you're defining those. I'll show you how to just generate these based on what your app does already. I made this PowerShell script, using the lovely generative capabilities we have today, and you can throw this in the source of your app. I like to call it fun.ps1 because coding is fun. And then if you paste it in, stop this app, it's not doing anything. Then you can cd the source and call this fun with a source directory of, I don't know, you can just do it right here. And this will generate these two files you need. The names are a little incorrect here, I can change that. But these are the files you need, and it's recursively looks through the app to just check where we're using all the queries and where we're using all of the mutators that are now deprecated. It extracted those and made them into the new syntax. So very useful PowerShell script. If you have a larger app, definitely use it. Don't go around typing all day. Now the thing that you're going to have to change here, and this is the way it's designed now, is you're going to need to install Zod. You can see here it's imported at the top. We don't have it yet, so let's install it. And the reason you need Zod is that we're no longer using the original, schema way of checking our data. Instead, we're using Zod now, because with these custom mutators, what they call them is you have the ability to choose what is getting injected inside the function and what is coming from the client. So whereas before, when I wanted to insert a chess game into my database, I had to, if you look at my schema, I had to define the FEN on the client. The FEN is like the string that keeps track of the game state. Now, rather than generate that on the client or reference some constant variable there, I could just have it in my mutator. So I don't have to define that field in the create function that I call from the client anymore. I can define a separate Zod object that doesn't have that and instead have my create function take care of generating that at the end. So there are some useful applications of the custom mutators. I'm sure if you were using them before, this will be very intuitive to move the other inserts and updates into. So let's create our schema for chess games here. I'll show you a trick for getting this a little bit faster. If you go to your schema and you reference this object, copy it, and then you put in front of it z.object, parenthesis around, hit save, and then you go to the front here. You can do Control-Alt down to get all those cursors, and then just type z dot, and then boom, everything's fine. Now to get custom like errors going, if you're familiar with Zod, you can do like non-empty, blah blah blah, define strings in here. That's all up to you how you want to do that. What you're going to do with these schemas in the new way of doing it is you're going to put that inside define mutator as the first argument. So chess game schema, and now you'll see that if I want to call mutators.chessgames.create from one of my apps, it's going to require me to have all these properties. And like I said, if I want to remove this at the end, I could, and I could define it here, but we'll keep it for now. So you're going to go throughout and kind of do that for all of these. Now, obviously, for some of these, like delete, you don't need to pass the full object. You just need to pass the string. So I could just do id z.string, and there we go. And I could do the same thing here. z.string. Now that could also be automated, so feel free to modify that script, or maybe I'll keep modifying it and making it better. But these can all be done like so, to define all the mutators for your app that is going to replace the original ones that are no longer supported. So after you're done kind of filling out what sort of schema you want and any custom mutators that you want, you'll go to your app, and let's see here where we're using this. We'll kind of comment this out for a second, and instead what you're going to call is you'll call await mutators dot chessgames dot create, and then this object that we had here. So I guess we can uncomment this real fast, throw that in here, and then boom. Oh, okay, so there was one critical mistake here, and that is that you need to define mutators here, and then that will return these. So you'll see here now that this is callable. Not sure why, but you have to define mutators, then define mutator to get that to work. So after you've done that, then you can replace in your app all the times you're inserting with your create function, all the times you're updating with your update, and so on. So that's the basis of what you'll do for mutators. Let's go move on to queries. If you look at what queries generated for us, once again, we're using Zod. It's defaulting to just two different query kinds, all and one. Those are the most common. You could have many more. You could have joins here. You can have a lot of different custom queries. And I think this will be more custom than what you'd see defined in your mutators. Now, you also see there's this import zquil from schema that does not exist. So what's up with that? You're going to want to go to your schema and, of course, remove your old permissions. We're not using those. Their new permissions system is something we'll go over probably in the next video. But for now, what you're going to have to do is come into here, export a new variable called zquil, which is essentially what the original mutators and queries were doing. And you're going to call the create builder function. It's a brand new function. You're going to pass in your schema. And this looks a little different per schema. So if you're just using your 0 schema, you'll pass it in like that. If you're using a drizzle schema, you'll pass in the drizzle schema. If you're using Prisma schema, you pass in the Prisma schema, or the 0 schema for that one as well. But once you pass that in and export that, you see queries is happy, and you've got your original syntax, the original zquil syntax here. So once again, we've got define queries, then define query, just like in mutators, we had define mutators, then define mutator. And then for each of these, you're gonna define these per table as you wish. Different ones, all in one, are standard. I would recommend defining these for all of them, and that PowerShell script will generate them for you. And then from here, you can choose how you want to use the ZQL that we all know and love. For here, for one, I'm choosing where ID one, dot one, and that's simple. You could have very complex queries in here, but what you're going to do where you were querying is after you define these queries, inside of here, you can remove these old use0 hooks, which is, may I say, very, very nice. They're kind of bringing back the asynchronicity and like way you would normally build like a normal application with normal endpoints, but it's got zero speed to it. So it's really, really fun and really exciting, the fact that you can build apps like you're used to and where you're calling an endpoint, and we'll get to that. But it's incredibly fast. So very, very cool architecture. I like the way they're going with this. I have bright expectations of where this will be in the future. Now, but for referencing this now, instead of this, instead of using 0, you can just get rid of this. In fact, you'll still use query, but you'll remove this, and instead you're going to say queries dot chessgames dot one, and then say wait, we had params dot id because we were passing this in parameters, and then you'll say like this. Oh, we defined it like this. So you pass that in like that to whatever your Zod schema is for that, and then there you go. It's the same idea as before, where we're using this query in here. It's just that logic of saying dot one and maybe looking for the ID is all hidden in queries now. So is it cleaner for reusing queries? Yes. Is it as nice, I think, as the original? Not quite, but that's the way you'll redefine these queries and use them back in your UI. And then, of course, we'd update our updates too. That's the gist of all the syntax upgrades you're going to need for upgrading to the new ZeroSync release. There's one more that's incredibly important, and I can't demo it in this video. It will be in the next, but because this is not a Next.js app. So they're now having you define an endpoint for your queries. Like I said, we're getting very close to what you would traditionally see in a web application, but with the speed of 0. You're going to define this endpoint like this. So here's like an example. If you had a Next.js app running on port 2000 and you had your API, you're going to just copy this in, and then it's going to handle the request and get the query. So it's like we've gone back in time, per se, to the original, HTTPS GET request, but it's using 0 under the hood. So you're gonna need to add this to your app. I can't add it to mine; it's just a v app, but you'll add this export to where are you adding this? Oh, okay. You're gonna add this to your env. Add this to your env. Add the endpoint, depending on what you're using here. Then use your queries like you are normally, like we just edited here, and then everything will work. So that's everything you need to get your app back up and running. Like we mentioned, there's this nice new state called use connection state. Where did I put that? Did we not go over that? Yeah, let's go over that. So there's also another fancy dancy function that they offer us, and that is the use connection state function. So if you go to here, connection state dot name, you can use this to define your logic for like offline, online, connecting, any sort of state you want. So let's see what this gives us here. State. If we go to matching, oh, not right. Yeah, I need to run it. If you go to matching, you'll see, you know, our zero cache. Now we go back. Oh, that's pretty slow. Oh, we need the sign in function. Yeah, okay, connecting. We threw it right in the middle. So this connecting, it's in a connecting state. So zero has these new states. There's disconnected, connected, connecting, and there might be like an unknown state too. You can check their docs to check me. But what's really cool about these is that this is where you can define like offline logic. So if you want to show the user that, hey, you just lost connection, then you'll display, you know, whatever you want using this connection state. Before, you would have to kind of jump through some hoops to tell if it were what it was connected to and if it was offline or online. Now you can have this state to tell you that. And a note about this is that when it's in a disconnected state, it no longer supports no longer supports writes or updates. So those will just fail and they won't be published after you connect back up. When it's in a connecting state, those will be published when you come back online. So the time between the app disconnecting and then you going from connecting to disconnected is up to you. It defaults to a minute right now, but you can set it as long as you want. There are trade-offs for setting it longer. They advise not to, but you can really do what you want. And that's what's nice about this new connection state is that it gives more flexibility for the developer to say when they would like offline, you know, capabilities and when they would like to show the user that they are offline. So very neat. One other cool feature is that we now have this zero out command that resets your Postgres database, not like data or schema, just takes out everything that zero put in. So really helpful if you're upgrading. You'll probably need to do this. If you are also just debugging sometimes, it can be helpful to reset that state and give zero sort of a clean slate to run on in terms of the wall and everything that's going on back there. So this has been the upgrading to 0.25 video. Let me know if it helped. I'll leave the link to the code down in the comments if you want this nice fun thing, and I'll update this fine for mutators so it's not giving you a wrong thing. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the new ZeroSync release. I'm really happy with what they've come out with, and I look forward to more. And follow and subscribe if you'd like more ZeroSync videos, because I'll keep making them. Awesome. Thank you. Take care.